Welcome back to Talking Shop with ShopSabre. As always, back talking about business and everything related to business ownership and manufacturing and all the fun stuff. So you hear it every week, but we're going to bring you another exciting episode today. We're going to talk about vacuum hold down. Another.
When was the first one?
Yesterday.
Oh.
As always.
I wasn't part of that one, so that's why.
You weren't a part of that one. That's why it's exciting. So, yeah, we're going to talk about vacuum hold down, all the things that you need to know about, holding material to your CNC machine. But as always, I'm your host, Brandon Bombardo. I'm here with second fiddle, Nick Peters.
Hello.
Hi, Nick. You like that name?
It's great.
We're going to keep going with that. But we got a special guest here today. We have Tricia with Becker Pumps. So, Tricia, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. You're the one who had to travel to get here.
I did, but it wasn't too bad. 2 hours.
That's not terrible.
Not terrible.
I guess it was a lot shorter than I was anticipating.
Yeah.
I figured the travel would be longer.
No.
Cool. Well, that's good. Nick, she almost as long of a travel as yours
no
today.
kidding. Holy smokes.
Oh my gosh, look at that.
And she gets like a vacation out of it, sort of.
Vacation. She's working.
Wow.
Did you see this? This is work.
Hanging out with us. This is a vacation.
It's work. Hanging out with us is work. Trust me, hanging out with you is like twice as much work as normal.
I will take this over sitting at my desk any day.
That's what
I can't blame
That's
you.
why I do this for an hour a week. I don't really want to, but it gets me away from my phone and my desk. So.
Fair enough. I'll take it. I'm not even upset about that. But today's topic, we're going to talk about hold down, why it comes important, or why it's so important, why it's comes in handy to have a good vacuum pump. Tricia, you know a lot about vacuum pumps.
It is important.
Yeah. We always say that you can't cut, but you can't hold down. And I think it's true because otherwise you're in trouble.
I mean, I wouldn't have a job then.
Yeah, that's true. You definitely wouldn't have a job. And
Definitely.
I'll tell you what, our machines wouldn't look as good if things were flying off at all. Might make good YouTube content, but that's about it.
Right?
So, no, we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into a lot of stuff. I mean, I think the one thing I'm excited to talk about today is vacuum pump technology. There's so often misconception around the fact that all pumps are equal. They're not.
They are not. We hear that all the time.
Yeah. I will admit, and I can't wait to tell the story. We'll talk about it after our next section, but I was kind of skeptical. I was a little skeptic of Becker pumps when I first got into the industry.
You're breaking my heart.
I know when I first got into the industry, like mind you guys, okay, for everybody listening, I got fired 4 times for a reason, right? Okay, I wasn't exactly the top employee of the month, but I remember when I was really getting into sales heavily here, and yeah, I was young, and I remember them talking about vacuum hold down, and I said I was going to tell the story after the fact, but I can't now. I'm just going to keep telling it. So
He used duct tape and it didn't work.
No, my brother bet me $100 that I couldn't move the sheet of material on the table.
Oh, no.
And I was like, how hard can it be to move some material on a table? So I took the bet. And I became $100 poorer because I lost that bet. Like it blew me away how much a vacuum pump does. I tried everything to move that, and I couldn't. And he even told me I could get a friend, and I went and got somebody from the shop to help me, and it didn't work. And but it blew me away that like pumps, when they look like they're doing nothing, right, are doing so much, and it makes such a difference in how things work. But where I became a skeptic was, okay, I can buy pump A, another brand for X amount of money, or I spend a little bit more money on this Becker pump, and it's supposed to be better. Like, come on. It's 8.9 horsepower. They're both 8.9 horsepower. It's going to be no different. And I was really skeptical of like the idea of, okay, well, I have less CFM, but I'm actually going to get more holding force. And it's true. Like it until you see it with your own eyes. And like, even to this day, I get customers that don't believe me when I'm like, yeah, I understand this pump's a few $1,000s more, but it's worth it, And the first time it really resonated with me is back, as many of you know, I have a son that plays hockey, but I talk about him a lot. But when he was younger, he would call me because I'd work crazy hours here before he went to bed. And I was on the phone having a phone call with him, and I never shut the machine off. And I didn't even realize I didn't shut the machine off because in the past, with the other pump, there was no chance you were having a phone conversation without turning the machine off. So like I did it, and then I walked over after the phone call, and I'll never forget that night. I walked over to like flip the switch back on for the pump, and I'm like, it's on. Like, wait, what? And like it dawned on me that I never turned it off. And so if you know what it's like to have a conversation with a 4-year-old, you know, it's very difficult to sometimes understand what they're saying when things are quiet.
Yes, it is.
And then you add the decibels of a vacuum pump, and it typically becomes increasingly more difficult. But I had a conversation with him before bed and like didn't have any trouble listening to him. And that's when it really hit me that like there's a better way to do this. And Becker was a big part of that. And that's when I really started shifting heavily into the Becker world and started honestly pushing the limits, trying to like, okay, well, how far can I push one before it fails? And the holding power is incredible.
It is. And, you know, I'm telling you, I love it that we won you over.
Yeah.
Just off of sound itself.
Right.
So that's fantastic.
I just think that, you know, the sound that you deal with every day in your daily life, noise pollution in general, is so high in this world. Especially, it just seems like everything makes noise nowadays.
Yeah.
And silence is a thing of the past. I feel like I never find the opportunity to sit in silence. And it was funny, this last 4th of July weekend, we were sitting and my son walked into the garage and I was just sitting there. I wasn't doing anything. I was just sitting there staring at, we have my race car, and I was staring at it. And my son walked in, he goes, "What are you doing, Dad?" And I was like, "Nothing." And he's like, "Why are you just sitting here?" I'm like, "'Cause it's quiet." Like it was just completely quiet in our garage. And I didn't like, it just sometimes hits you that like, man, the world is so noisy all the time. And, you know, you think about your job every day and all of the noise that goes into your shop. And it's like, if I can take a little bit of noise out of my shop, it means the world to me. And
especially a shop like this, you know,
Right.
anything that you can lessen.
exactly. And that's where, you know, so you think about these cabinet shops and these sign shops and all these shops that are running machines and people and everything all day long. If you could take a little bit of noise out of your shop, I mean, it goes a long way. Sometimes for just internal peace.
Yeah, for
you know,
sure.
lets you think. So yeah, so I mean, that's just my fun little story as we kind of lead into this.
That's what we say when Brandon has a day off.
Nice little peace and quiet.
Probably true.
That's great.
That's what happens. We were just talking about this. Tricia and I were talking. We're both Italian, and we were told we have to use our inside voices all the time. And
We need to wire you up like a vacuum pump so you're just a little quieter. How about that?
Everybody always asks me why I'm yelling. I
Right.
say, it's my inside voice. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's exactly what I tell people. I'm like, I'm not yelling.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking with excitement. You know?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Emotion.
Exactly. It's funny that now Nick in the middle here has to deal with two Italians. So
Sorry, Nick.
Having spaghetti for lunch, just so you know.
we are
I am. I don't know what you're doing.
awesome.
I carry sauce on me at all times, so you're good.
There you go. See?
I just need to go get some noodles.
There you go.
We good to
We're
go.
done.
Throw it in the microwave, call it good.
Let's jump into questions and comments, huh?
Oh, you gonna let me talk?
I'll let you talk.
Perfect. Question number 1.
Yeah.
When it comes to vacuum hold down, why would I just not add another pump if I need more holding power?
I love that question because it's a common question that we do get about hold down, and people think just adding another vacuum pump solves the problem. And a lot of times that can have zero effect on what you're doing, because some of the stuff, and Tricia, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I mean, some things, the CFM isn't as important as the actual, what they call HG, your inches of HG. And one thing about vacuum technology people don't realize is CFM stacks. So by adding another pump, you add more CFM and therefore you gain more flow.
Yep.
But HG has no effect. So if the pump technology puts out, as an example, 24 inches of vacuum pressure,
Yep.
and you add another pump to it, it's still only 24 inches of vacuum pressure.
Yep.
So if your part's moving because you don't have enough hold down force, right? An example of this would be where people often get confused is higher elevation.
Yep.
You know, I have customers that are in, you know, Colorado, and they think by buying a pump at 24 inches of vacuum pressure, now they're going to, you know, get the best hold down. And it's like, well, wait a second. Once you start adding elevation, for every 1,000 feet you go up, you lose 1 inch of vacuum. And so you're 6,000 feet in the air, and suddenly your 24 inches of vacuum pressure is only 18 at best,
Yeah.
right? And that's assuming no leakage.
That's exactly right. And, you know, and I think that's a huge misconception because, we deal with a lot of elevation as well. So as soon as somebody's like, it's not working, like,
Yep.
it's not, where are you at again? And they'll say, and I'm like, yep, we have a problem.
Yep, and that's exactly it. So sizing the pump is more than just how much horsepower can I put behind it, but it's all the other factors. And we'll get into that a little later in the episode. But to answer the question about just add another vacuum pump, in that case, adding another vacuum pump will have zero effect except for your pocketbook. It's going to cost you more money. So
yeah, I mean, you can spend all you want, but you're going to get the same results.
Yeah. So, it really comes down to selecting the right pump is more important than adding more pumps.
That's right.
Hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, I think so.
Cool.
Good question.
Number 2 is more of a statement than a question, but I'm sure you'll have a reply for it. Vacuum hold down simply does not work for my work.
This can be true, right? I don't know their application. They did not give us what they're doing, but it can be true that, vacuum doesn't work for everything. I mean, it's not a one size fits all, but it's rare. I will say in most cases, hold down not working is usually due to inadequate setup.
Yes.
And it's generally due to either you're lacking a good fixture, because sometimes you have to create a good fixture to hold your parts. Even with vacuum, you may have to use gasket or, something similar to prevent leakage, because vacuum simply is science. There's nothing magical about it. There's no unicorn dust sprayed in there, right? I promise you.
As much as we would love it
Yeah,
to be.
as much as we want. It looks like a spaceship, but it doesn't have any special powers. It's really comes down to air will always go the area of least resistance. Yeah. And therefore, if the least resistance area is larger than your part, you're going to get no hold down. And a lot of times you see this with people cutting smaller parts. Large parts generally are not as hard to hold. It's the small parts that are harder to hold. And it's because when you start cutting around a part, you're creating a bigger void or leak than there is remaining surface area.
Yes.
Or that to equal to it. And that can create real issues for you in hold down. And so when people say their vacuum doesn't work for their application, it may not work naturally, right? You might not just be able to throw the part on the table and say, good luck. But a lot of times creating a vacuum fixture can solve that problem. One thing that we've seen people do in like odd situations where you're building, let's say, a plaque or a desk sign or something like that, where the parts get smaller, especially in acrylics, things like that, where they're slippery. People will use things like All-Star Gasket. All-Star is a vendor that we work with. There's other gasket companies out there, but All-Star is just one that we're really familiar with, and it works extremely well with the vacuum pump, and it allows you to minimize that leakage. And I think that in itself is where people often overlook it. So when they say it doesn't work with my application, well, I would be cautious to agree until I know what your application. I mean. Yeah, okay, maybe if your application's water, I don't know. Like, you're not going to maybe hold water down, but, it's the reality is like I haven't run into too many situations in my experience in this industry where vacuum cannot be at least a factor in holding your part, and maybe not the lone solution, right? You have to use a fixture. You may still have to, an example that comes to mind for me is live edge.
Yep.
Where people are dealing with a lot of materials that are not flat.
Yep.
They're very odd shaped. So naturally, holding that down is difficult, but there are ways vacuum can assist you by using fixtures and different, methods to pick up that gap.
Yeah. And, a lot of times I think it's people understanding their application, and a lot of times they really don't,
Right.
So understanding their application and how vacuum can work for them.
Yep.
Sometimes that's our job, your job, you know what I mean? And getting them to understand it.
And that's I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something I want to make sure I point out too to this question is, if you ever run into a situation where you say it doesn't work for what I'm doing, like call us.
Yep.
Call our team, or heck, call Becker directly. They have an incredible support network. And trust me, Becker doesn't exist by not selling pumps. So they're going to want to find a way to make it work for you, because they want you to buy a pump too. So if you want to use vacuum hold down, a lot of times it may require a little bit of your thinking cap, right? You got to figure out what the best approach is, but we can make it work.
Sometimes people smarter than me, but that's okay.
Right. I'm the same way. I got a lot of smart people around me, so I might not have the answer, but somebody can get you there. So.
Yes.
Ready for the next one?
I'm ready.
Perfect. Why should I use vacuum instead of just clamping or screwing my material down?
Well, it's really about speed. I mean, that's the first thing that I try to remind people is that, yes, can you clamp and screw stuff down and achieve great results? Absolutely. But does your part allow it, first off? Because some parts, they're a finished part, so putting a screw through them isn't an option.
Not so good.
Yeah. I can't imagine screwing down my cabinet You know, like if I'm going to screw down the drawer front, like I'm going to have a big screw hole in the middle of it. So that's probably not what I want. The same goes for, while, clamping something down. Sometimes clearance is the issue.
Yeah.
You have to cut the outside perimeter of a part. Well, where do you put the clamp now? Because you're going to cut your clamp in half. So, there's things where vacuum is the only solution. It's the best way to do it. The other thing that I like the most about vacuum, and I was talking to Router Bob years ago, and he explained it to me perfectly because he talked about nested manufacturing.
Yep.
And we've been doing nested manufacturing for as long as I've been in the industry. But I didn't really understand nesting other than it's just something we all do. And Bob actually explained it to me that, he's like, it's zero setup fixturing is what it is. He's like, you throw a sheet of material up there and you don't have a bunch of setup. You don't have to throw clamps and you don't have to put screws and things. There's zero setup. You put the sheet up there, turn the pump on, and away you go. And it's the truth because you can jump from one application to the next with no additional setup.
Yep.
So it really makes things easy. It also makes unloading your material a lot simpler because you're not having to take out screws out of every part.
Yep.
Saves you time. And if one thing we discuss on this show a lot is time is money, and saving time is always a great way to increase profits. So,
That's right.
yeah. I get it.
Looks good.
Those were great questions.
You sound like you have another one.
Well, I had one.
Uh-oh.
I had a joke written down about vacuum pumps, but realized it sucked, so I deleted it.
But thanks for your dad joke. I realized. Well, we made it all the way to 17 minutes into the episode before somebody made a vacuum sucks joke.
It played perfectly for where we're at. So.
And I'm not going to lie. So the whole question and answer thing, love it. And I'm really hoping I get a rapid fire at the end.
There you go.
I've heard your rapid fire.
There we go. We'll do a rapid fire at the end. I like it.
Man. All right.
You ready for the rapid fire at the end?
Pressure's on.
We can do that. That's fun. Actually, you know what? I forgot we used to do rapid fire.
Yeah, see?
Now we're going to
bringing it back.
I'm glad.
She's not lying. She did listen to some.
She did listen to it.
homework.
She knows what we're doing here.
She's lying. She didn't really listen to us talk about
rapid fire
stuff.
I forgot about rapid fire. We're doing that. We're
You
bringing it
actually
back.
did it to Josh. I did hear it in his episode too. So
we did it to Josh. I remember that.
Who's Josh?
after he hung up on you. But yeah.
Come on now.
Everybody says, who's Josh?
Come on.
I'm forgetful, man. I don't remember what I did last week, so.
Sorry, Josh.
He ain't listening either.
Probably not. Yeah. Moving on, though. Let's talk about Becker pumps.
Let's go.
Obviously, Tricia, we have you here for a reason. Mm-hmm. We've worked with you guys a long time. Very, very proud of what we've accomplished, as a partnership. But the audience doesn't maybe know much about Becker, right? I talk about ShopSabre a lot. People have seen and heard our story probably too many times at this point. But tell us a little bit about who is Becker and the kind of the history of it.
So this is actually a really exciting year for us to be talking about Becker because we are German owned. Mm-hmm. Our headquarters is in Germany, and we still have a Becker at the helm, which I think is fantastic.
That's awesome.
Family owned. But they actually just celebrated their 140th this year. So, awesome. They started in 1885.
Right.
Jeez.
So 140 years. So, that tells you something about how, well they have done over the years. They've stayed, the best in the business, especially when it comes to woodworking. Mm-hmm. So, we're the largest daughter company in Ohio. So, and we are hitting our 50th this year. So
I was just going to say that. Aren't you guys at 50 years this year?
We are 50 years this year.
That's
so,
awesome.
yes, it is older than me. So that's
awesome.
That's one thing I love.
That's awesome.
So, so we're hitting our 50th. But, so it's a very exciting year. We just had a grand opening in Canada. Yep. We'll be having a grand opening in Mexico coming soon. So, Becker's really growing and, it's fantastic, being a part of the family. So
that's what excites me the most about it is that I've seen how much just in the small, we've been with you guys a long time, but it's a small amount of time when you consider the history of Becker. And it's just cool to see the growth in the time we've been involved. So, it's pretty impressive. What people don't realize is that Becker's been around a long time. And I love that you told the history there because it kind of downplays us. Sometimes I'm like, man, we've been around for 2.5 decades. And then you're like, we've been around over 100 years. I'm like, okay, well, we'll keep trying.
We started the dry rotary vane in the 50s.
Right.
So, we developed that technology and still going to this day.
And that's what I was just going to say is I don't think people realize that, but you guys actually developed that technology.
Yes.
While there's other companies now that have done different pump technologies, but you guys were really big on the development and really, kind of leading the charge with, more advanced vacuum technologies.
Yeah. And, Dr. Dorothy Becker, like I said, she is at the helm right now. And, she surrounds herself with amazing people. Yeah. And, like you said, it continues to grow. So, future is endless.
Right. And I mean, and for a company to last as long as they have and been through, I mean, you think of all the events in the world and the climate, the, economy and everything that happens in that, time period, it just shows that there's a lot of really good people at that company.
Yeah. And to stay family owned through all of it.
Right. And that's the coolest thing. Like, I guess that's what gives me hope, as we kind of like work here at ShopSabre and we think about it is that, my brother being involved and myself and my dad still here to this day. And then you think about the future generations, again, my boys. And I'm like, it gives me hope that like, yes, like my goal of watching them, kind of work within the company and hopefully one day sitting here, it's cool to see that like the Becker family has done that and they've built that. And, the goal obviously for ShopSabre is to continue to grow and to continue to, provide customers with the same level of service and expectations that we've kind of been known for over the last 2.5 decades, but then to see a company that's done it now for over 100 years,
Right.
So,
well, we love the partnership with you guys, so hopefully we can help you keep growing.
I love it. Yeah, we agree. I mean, it's nice when you find companies that align on similar thought processes.
Yeah.
I think a lot of companies in today's world get so hyper-focused on profit.
Yep.
They're more worried about the bottom line than they are about the people who make the bottom line happen.
Exactly.
And for me, that's what I think, even ourselves, you catch yourself. I think every company catches themselves at times. We're like, wait a second, we lost track of who we are. We got to get back to our identity. And what's cool about Becker is that when my customers have an issue, and I'm not going to sit here and lie to anybody and tell them that I don't have customers who have to call me with an issue, right? I mean, I have problems with machines and things happen,
Sure.
We're human, but we also have things where things happen out of our control, right? A pump has an issue or a spindle has an issue or a bearing has an issue, whatever. My big thing has always been, can I call that vendor up and get assistance? Because if the answer is no, I don't generally align with those companies very well, right? Like, it's not about the profit line alone. I don't care if somebody's willing to give me twice as much margin on a part if their service is crap.
Yep.
And for us, that's more important as the people. And it's you. It's the people that are involved in the company that when something's not going the way we want, I can pick the phone up. And I know for a fact when I pick the phone up, they're going to answer.
Yeah.
And they might not always have the answer immediately, right? I mean, you're human too. And you're going to say, hey, I got to dig into that. But when I hang that phone up, I don't have to go, well, I'm going to be calling them back in 3 days. Like I know you're going to call me back. I don't worry about it. You call me back with an answer, a solution. Our customers are taken care of. Again, I found that, and I'll be honest, I've been in this industry a long time, and I've seen you guys take care of some customers' issues that probably weren't your responsibility. Like, I'm just going to be bluntly honest. And sometimes we live in a world where, it's easy for people to pass the problems on to the vendor, right? And we've seen situations, I mean, we've seen it too, where, somebody has an electrician that wires something wrong. Mm-hmm. And we can all kind of tell when something's been wired wrong. And but unless we can prove it, then we're like, you know what? Let's just take care of the customer. Like in the end, let's do what's right.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about you. It's few and far between we have to do that, but it's like, we're not willing to burn the bridge once on an assumption, And so we're just all really good at like trying to take care of the customers. And I think that's what I love about this the best is that you guys have gone to bat for the customers just as much as I would ever expect.
Yeah. It's something we pride ourselves on. It's something that, sets us above and beyond from, competitors out there. It's just our customer service from our service department, from our actual customer service to, the 14 guys around the United States to, we really try to put the customer first and, do whatever we can to keep them up and running and everything, So yeah, it's just, we pride ourselves deeply on that.
And I will contest to that. That is true. Like it is, I've never met a person at Becker that doesn't have some level of pride in what they're doing. You get to some large organizations and you get on the phone with one person, you're like, man, that person hates their job. You just feel it, right? They're definitely not the guy you want to talk to, right? You're like, oh, get me to somebody else. But I just have never had that experience with Becker ever. I call in and, when somebody's out of the office, I call and get somebody else, and it's just, there's always somebody willing to grab the ball, pick it up and run with it, and that's what I love about it. And I think that's the mentality we have here, right, Nick? I mean, that's kind of been always how we've kind of always done it is next person up kind of thing.
For sure. So. I do have one question real quick.
Okay.
So you guys started 140 years ago.
Yeah.
Did you guys start building pumps as a company way back then? Like
they started out of a garage.
It just seems like a long time ago to like have this technology. Like
I mean, it started out of the garage. We actually, I was just there for the 140th, so I was lucky to be one of the ones to go. And, Dr. Becker actually, showed us, and we were in where it started. So, I mean, they started with the simplest of technology. Yeah. So it was amazing.
Awesome. I think here's the thing that I think gets people the most is when you actually think back 140 years. It's not as far back as you think it was, like
because we're getting older.
Correct. Yeah. And that's exactly like somebody told me the other day that we're closer today to 2050 than we are to the year 2000.
Oof.
And when I heard that,
that's wild.
It hurt. Like I'm
scary.
Like, wait, what? Like we're closer to 2050 than we are 2000? Like, and I remember 2000 very clearly. So
yeah.
I'm like, man. So then when you start to hear that, like to your point, 140 years ago, and then you start doing the math, you're like, that wasn't as far back as I thought it was, like it makes sense, so.
You know what that stat makes me really excited for though?
What's that?
I'm closer to retirement
Jeez.
than like a couple years from when I graduated high school.
Me too.
So,
Me too.
There you go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
That's the positivity for the day.
I like that. That's our motivational quote of the week. Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, so that's cool though. I mean, I appreciate you sharing some of the history. Now let's talk about what does this all mean, right? I mean, we've all, you guys have probably all enjoyed listening to the history of Becker here, but let's talk more about CNC routers because that's what we build, right? And the difference between the different pumps and the options that come along with them. Because for one, ShopSabre, one thing that sets us apart is we have what's called high flow vacuum technology here. And we have a ShopSabre Minute video. If you haven't checked it out, I encourage you to go check it out. But high flow vacuum is what we control, and that is the tabletop itself. And so I start off by saying you could take the Becker pump and you can plug it into the ShopSabre machine, and then you could take the same Becker pump and plug it into competitor A's machine, and you could see two different results.
Sure.
And more likely you will see two different results. And the reason for that is because the pump can only do what the pump can do as long as it's getting to the part. And if the table lacks technology, it's going to lack performance. And a lot of times what I point out to customers is if you look at different tables, how does the air get from the pump to the machine? And I can promise you it's not Bluetooth. It's definitely not.
Be cool if it was.
It would be cool if it was, though. We have new Wi-Fi vacuum pump. But there's pipes that have to connect everything. I'm sorry, I'm stupid. But as you bring the pipes to the table, like, believe it or not, there's different quality of pipe. I mean, we see a lot of, import products, I'll call them, right? Yep. That run flexible rubber tubes because they're cheap.
Yep.
And the cool thing about rubber flexible tubes is you can run them anywhere you want and they're flexible. But that process over time is a problem because what is vacuum doing? It's creating suction.
Yep.
Well, what does rubber do over time? It breaks down. So when you're sucking on a rubber hose for 8 hours a day for 3 years, that hose collapses one day and it's going to start to break down. And when it starts to break down, that starts to restrict flow to your table.
Yep.
So suddenly your vacuum pump is doing the same thing it's been doing for 3 years, and suddenly it's not performing the same. And you're like, well, my pump's crap.
Right.
It's not your pump. It's your table. So that's something I always remind people because the same goes for creating a spoil board. How good your spoil board works determines how much air is going to flow to your part. And so there's a lot of variables outside of the vacuum pump. And that's why the high flow vacuum vacuum table was developed, is because traditionally people will create vacuum channels and grids, and everybody refers to it as the waffle grid.
Yep.
You take the spoil board off and you're looking like, oh cool, it's a waffle maker. But that channel is designed, oh geez, what's happening here? That channel is designed so that air flows through those channels underneath your material. And so the way those channels are designed determines how much air gets to the surface, as well as the size of the pipes on the table determine how much flow gets from the pump. So if your pump produces 170 CFM, but your pipes are tiny, you're not going to get 170 CFM to the table. So you either need to add a bunch of tiny little holes or you have to oversize the holes.
Right.
There's only two ways about it. And so that's really what comes with designing a table. And then once you've got the table design and you're, okay, now is the table flat? Because that's the next thing. If the table surfaced isn't flat, now you have to consider, okay, do we need to use gasketing or can we surface our spoil board and make up that difference, and then therefore not have to worry about the table surface as much. So there's some of that in the processing. So as we talked about earlier, vacuum fixtures and things like that. But now now we've got a table. Now we have to size the pump. Because to our point earlier, 8.9 horsepower isn't 8.9 horsepower isn't 8.9 horsepower.
That's right.
Right?
It is
You
what
could
it
have
is.
3 of them, and 8.9 is only the horsepower of the motor turning the pump.
That's right.
And so the technology could be a claw style. It could be
A regen.
a regen, or it could be a dry vane style, which is what we traditionally have used with ShopSabre machines.
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, we sell regen blowers too, and regen blowers have a time and place. In fact, Becker builds regen blowers.
We do.
So let's be very clear. You are not going to hear us sit here and say regen doesn't work. Regen absolutely works for the right applications at the right time.
Yeah.
But I can promise you, an 8.9 horsepower regen will not produce the same holding force as an 8.9 horsepower vane.
It will not.
And the reason for that is the technology.
Yeah.
And generally, regen blowers are designed for high flow,
Correct.
low pressure. Vane style are high pressure, lower flow.
Correct.
Now, I don't like to call it low flow because it's still like a lot of air.
It is a lot of air.
It still moves a lot of air. And with the right horsepower rating, you can produce it. And that's why we lean towards that, because with the appropriate setup, more important than CFM is HG.
Right.
And so, that being said, there is a thing called not enough CFM. When you just don't have enough CFM, you don't have enough CFM. And
Right.
so when you're sizing your pumps, this is where people get in trouble, because they'll go, oh, if I'm going to buy an 8.9 horsepower Becker VTLF 2.25, right? That it's going to be 170-ish CFM, and it's going to put me at right around 24 inches of vacuum pressure.
Correct.
So that's a great pump.
It's an amazing pump.
But now I'm going to put it on a 5x10 table. Not as amazing pump anymore.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
anymore.
right? And that's the problem people don't realize they're
Yeah.
creating. And this is what I see. So when our sales guys ask, when customers will come to us and they're like, hey, I'm looking at you in, Exhibit A, and Exhibit A's machine is cheaper than yours. So we're leaning that way. And my guys will go, can we do a competitive analysis of it? I'd love to do a comparison. And a lot of people just immediately assume, well, they're just going to trash talk this other machine. That's not our goal. Like, our goal is to truly look at the specs of the table. That's why we ask, do you mind going through the quote with me? Because we want to ask some questions, because, okay, what size table are you looking at? Well, I'm looking at a 5x10. Okay, what size pump are you looking at? And then they say the 8.9. Well, they've spec'd the wrong pump.
Right.
So of course it's going to be cheaper because the pump is cheaper. And then they start to go, well, they said it'll work just fine. Well, let's talk about what will work just fine and what will work appropriately, because there are applications where, yeah, if you're holding your spoil board down, you're right. The 8.9 will hold it down. But if you're cutting smaller parts and things where now you're nesting out sheets, you're doing cabinetry, having too small of a pump will absolutely restrict your ability to be successful. And the rule of thumb and I learned this from Becker years ago, was you need 5.5 CFM for every 1 square foot of surface area on your table.
Correct.
So obviously, as you do the math and you start to figure out, okay, I have 5x10 surface area, you start to do the math and you multiply it by 5.5 and you start to realize, okay, this is how much CFM I need to produce. An 8.9 doesn't do it.
Does not.
And that's where now comes in your question earlier, Nick. You had asked about, what if I just add another vacuum pump? This is where adding another vacuum pump makes sense, because either your choice is buy 2 8.9s, or in Becker's case, they actually have a pump designed for that size table, which is called a 17 horsepower, right?
Yep.
17.7.
Yep.
And that is, they call it the VTLF 2.4.
Yep.
And that pump is designed so you don't have to go out and buy 2 pumps. You have 1 pump that will feed that size table adequately.
Correct. And again, like we said before, it comes down to educating the application and just getting them to understand what they need,
Right.
and to get the most for their money.
And that's why it's so important that we develop a plan with you, because a lot of people just think that you can go out and buy a cookie cutter setup for any shop and it'll work for every person. And I've heard so many times people call us up the phone, well, Jake told me your guys' machines are great, so sell me the same thing Jake has.
Yeah.
Well, wait a second. Let's figure out what you're doing, because what you're doing and what Jake's doing may be 2 entirely different expectations, and even though he loves his machine, you're going to hate yours,
Right.
So it's like, I don't want to sell you something you're not going to like, nor do I want to sell you the wrong pump.
Yeah.
And there are applications where, budget is always in mind, and I get that. And so we do sell pumps that aren't Becker pumps for those applications to get you started. But you're going to find that with our team, our go-to is always going to be a Becker pump if the budget will allow it.
Sure.
Because no matter what the application is, Becker has a solution. It's just a matter of how much money can you afford to spend? Because for even our bigger tables, we sell a big 6x12 table.
Mm-hmm.
The 17 isn't big enough by itself.
Right.
So this is where we get into what's called a duplex system, and we sell multiple pumps on one machine. And so we actually sell a package designed that has 2 of these 17 horsepower pumps in tandem, so it gives you the CFM you need without sacrificing the vacuum hold down pressure, which is ultimately what's holding your parts.
Exactly.
And so let's talk about the science behind vacuum, because vacuum is not what people think it is. Most people will, if you challenge them, will think that it is sucking the part down, and all the vacuum pulling down is what actually is holding the part to the table.
That was me.
Yeah.
When I started here.
Yeah, it's most
I
people.
was blown away.
They think that that's what vacuums do, is that they suck on the parts and hold them down.
And it's
But
done.
it's not. Yeah,
No.
it's removing the atmospheric pressure or the air underneath your parts, which actually allows atmosphere and gravity to
Yep.
do its job and push down on your part.
Exactly.
So by basically, you're doing essentially, you're removing all the air in the void between the surface and the bottom of the material. And so that's what creates the thought that it's sucking the part down, right? It's not. It's removing air.
Yep.
And then gravity is essentially doing its job.
Doing it for you.
Yeah. And so that's why when people say like it's not working, we are like, well, it's likely because of the application. You have too much leakage. You have something else going on. In rare cases, is it, an actual machine issue or a pump issue, right? I mean,
exactly.
it happens. I mean, we won't say that there's never a case where that. I mean, there's somebody listening to this who I'm sure is like, actually, I had one and my pipe broke on my ShopSabre. Okay, it can happen, right? Like things happen. A glue fails in a pipe, or a vane fails in a pump.
Yep.
Stuff does happen. But the cool thing about that is everything with that is repairable. So even if something terribly goes wrong in your world, like you're not throwing away these pumps.
Right.
You're not throwing away these tables. Like you can re-glue the pipe if something were to happen, if somebody bumps into it, whatever. If a vane goes bad, right? You crack a vane or something crazy happens, you can replace these parts.
Correct.
And you can do it yourself. That's what's cool is we actually, Becker came here and shot a video. So for those who don't own a ShopSabre, we have a thing called Sabre Nation University. And on Sabre Nation University, we have a video that shows how to take apart one of these pumps and do the maintenance on it.
Yeah, it's actually not as difficult as people think.
It's so easy.
Yeah.
Like, I admittedly, when I had you guys coming out, was like, oh, this is going to be not fun. Like, I was not looking forward to it. And I was like, I hate doing maintenance on things. Like, I'm like, and as a guy who has race cars, and that's my hobby, is I enjoy race cars. And
you crashes a lot.
I crash a lot. Thank you, Nick.
Never riding with Brandon.
Yeah, never ride with me. Not in a race car.
He's got a car that drives itself, so you're not in danger. You're safe.
Jeez, here we go. But my point is maintenance is never what anybody enjoys doing.
Right.
Right? Like,
but it is very important.
Yeah, I would rather race my car than work on my car.
Sure.
But working on my car is necessary. And so it's the same with your vacuum pump. Like, of course, you'd rather run your machine all day long. But eventually, you're going to need to make some time for some maintenance.
Right.
Otherwise, I'll teach you something about life. It will make time for you. It's true. It's like your health. I always tell people that. If you don't make time for your health, it will make time for you.
That's right.
So it's the same thing with your vacuum pumps. There's filters. There's actually, what's cool about Becker, and I love this about the Becker pumps, the filter's built into it. It's not an external. You don't have to have this giant filter pack.
Yeah.
It's actually it's a clear little case on the side.
Filter so you can see.
You can see it, so you don't have to take it all apart just to find out you didn't need to do anything.
Yep.
But you take it apart, and then the filter is really easy to get to.
It's literally like 4 screws.
Yeah, and they're little like thumb screws too,
Yeah.
so you don't even need a wrench.
No.
Unless you got Hercules hands, and then you need a wrench. But
That's me.
yeah, that's you.
Just call Nick.
Yeah, we call Hercules Nick.
No, you call me second fiddle, Nick.
Second fiddle Nick. I like that one better. But the thing is we love that because it's so simple to do the maintenance, and it's people like don't realize how affordable the maintenance is on these pumps. It's not like you're spending hundreds of dollars every month.
Yeah.
Like rarely are you spending any money. Like that's what's crazy about these pumps is it's
Yeah.
very little money at all, and the grease. I mean, greasing it is the biggest thing.
Yep.
Which you guys give you a grease kit, which is awesome. And checking the filters, which is, again, basically costs you nothing other than a little bit of your time.
Yep.
And I know time is money. You guys are saying it. I
say
hear
the
it.
same thing.
I heard it. But it's money ahead compared to downtime.
That's right. And as long as you keep up on that maintenance on that, I mean, your pump could last forever. Literally years and years and years. I think the oldest pump I saw was like 1972.
Right.
So
I'll tell you right now, we've had a Becker pump running in our shop since the inception of our relationship. Like, because you guys, of course, were like, hey, Brandon, you should get one of these pumps for your machine in the shop. And I'm like, I don't know if we need one. And then I heard the sound. I'm like, we need one. And we added it, and it's been running since that day.
Yeah.
And we have never had any issues.
I was saying,
I just knocked on wood. Don't worry. I knocked on wood, everybody. But we've had our team's done the maintenance as needed.
Yeah.
Gone through the processes. And I'll tell you right now, the pump runs 8 hours a day, 5 days a week minimal. And sometimes we have to run multiple shifts. Sometimes we have to run on the weekends. And we just turn the machine on and go to work.
Yeah.
So I can say that if you do the maintenance, they last a long time. Yep. So the big thing about this was understanding that there are differences between machines, but there's also differences between pumps. And so just because somebody says they're selling you an 8.9 doesn't necessarily mean it's the same technology. It also doesn't mean it's right for the table size that you're looking at, because just because they say the name Becker does not mean they're selling you the same technology as what Becker would actually recommend. And I caution people that, because as you said, like, we've been a partner of your guys for a while, and we really are big on working with you guys on applications. And you guys have told us, hey, this is the right size pumps for the right size stuff. And so we don't deviate from that. Like, our sales team isn't even given an option. And I can't say the same for all the competition.
Yeah.
Like, some of the competitors, they don't have the same rules, right? Their rule is sell machine.
Right.
And sometimes when a sales guy is paid commission, they want to get you in the door, right? And they know that, okay, well, you could upgrade the pump later. You can do this. And the problem with that is they sell you the wrong size Becker pump, and then they sell you another pump later on, or they have to, they sell you a regenerative blower Becker.
We see that a lot.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say, because they're way more affordable.
Sure.
Because it's different technology. And that's the problem, is people, because, I want to have a Becker pump. Oh yeah, no problem. I'll sell you a Becker, and they sell them a regenerative blower. Well, they technically did what you told them to. They sold you a Becker, but it's going to perform very different than a vane or a root style pump.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
I think the problem is that so many people are like, I mean, myself, that don't necessarily understand it or know what it's really doing.
Yep.
So when somebody tells them, hey, yeah, this is going to work,
right?
Hey, listen.
they don't know any better, right?
Sure.
Yep.
So I think the point is, like, educate yourself and ask questions, and don't be afraid to do that.
Yep.
The one thing about regen blowers versus like vane style pumps that I always like to refer to it as, it's like sucking air through a trash can versus sucking air through a straw.
Yeah.
Right? Like, naturally, you're going to have less volume with a vane or root style, which is the straw, right? But you're going to need less power to pull that air, right?
Yep.
Where when you start sucking air through a trash can, like, it takes a lot of power to do that.
Yeah.
And therefore you're going to get a lot more flow when you do start getting air moving. And that's really the two different technologies. And that's where it comes into, the other thing I always point out to people is, now take those two technologies and take a pinhole and puncture a pinhole in the side of a straw and puncture a pinhole in the side of a trash can.
Right.
You're not going to lose the flow as easy with the trash can as you will with the straw. And that's why it's so critical to minimize your leakage where you can, because as soon as you start putting more holes in parts, you're creating more voids in suction. And that's where pumps start to struggle. And so that's why it's so critical you size the pump appropriately from a CFM, because even though somebody says, yeah, that'll work, they're not wrong. The 8.9 will hold your sheet down on a 5x10, but now start putting a bunch of holes in that sheet.
Start that leakage.
And it won't do it anymore. And that's why, like, I go back to that definition of, like, hey, pulling air through a straw, and putting a hole in it, because that's what you're doing.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah. And we just don't want you to have the wrong technology, because, again, I'm not lying to you when I say that, yeah, the 8.9 will work on a 5x10, but I'd be lying to you if I said you won't probably run into some limitations depending on your application.
Yep, exactly right.
So, yeah. So now let's talk about that, because it's a good transition into speed and safety, because now that we understand pumps and what they're supposed to do, is speed can be affected by the pump, because a lot of times people don't realize that you slow down the cutting based on the hold down.
Yep.
If the part starts vibrating, it's going to create a chatter issue. Your part finish isn't going to be great. Your bit might break. I mean, there's so many other factors. We talked to Nick Frost a couple weeks ago, and Nick was like, people think that just go as fast as you can all the time, and it's not that. It's getting everything right. But the same can be said for hold down, because having the right vacuum pump can allow you to cut faster. But additionally, there is a thing called going too fast.
Sure.
And I think people don't realize that even though the bit says it can go 800 inches a minute, doesn't mean you should.
Right.
Because sometimes the part is just too small. And therefore, no matter how much money you spend, Becker can't overcome science.
Yeah.
And some of it is just simply there's not enough surface area to create a strong enough hold on that part at the speeds you're trying to push.
Yep. Exactly. There's a lot of times our technical department, we get all the time, they'll say, well, how big is the part you're trying, that you're cutting? So yeah, I mean that 100%.
And that's why we talk about, other applications where you're like, hey, maybe you need to onion skin.
Yeah.
And onion skin, for those who don't know what that means, is you're cutting through your material all the way until leaving a very thin layer of material left. Mm-hmm. And that's called an onion skin. And then some people will either break those parts out manually, or they'll come back and do a reverse onion skin cut, where then the machine cuts the fine onion skin. But because that skin is so thin, there's relatively no force on the part. So it reduces how much side pressures are on the part, and therefore reduces the risk of kicking the part out. The other thing people will do is put tabs on there. And they'll do a tab vacuum, where they're vacuuming everything down, leaving little tabs on it, like when you were a kid and you snapped out the little parts. It's the same thing. And it's because some parts just require some additional thought. Because no matter how strong of a vacuum you have, sometimes the part is just too small. And that's where the safety aspect comes in, is that on these parts, if they come loose, you're using a cutter that's spinning at 18,000 RPM.
Yeah.
That essentially, if you get a hold of it just right, it's going to fling apart. And that's why having dust skirts on your machine is so important, and making sure that you have good hold down, because the last thing you want to do is be sending projectiles across your shop as you're walking through the shop. So
nobody's that fast.
Nobody's that fast. I promise
Except
you.
for maybe Nick.
Nick, are you that fast?
Maybe.
I bet you are. Let's try. On the next video, we're going to do how fast is Nick?
Me and Brandon are going to race in the parking lot, and I'm going to win.
No, I'm going to shoot projectiles off the ShopSabre and see if you can dodge them.
I'll catch them. I'm quick with my hands.
There we go.
Good luck.
You had a boot on your foot last week. Now you're going to have that hand. You're going to have gloves on your hands. Yeah.
So you're saying even with a boot on your leg, you could beat him in a race?
Well, probably.
I'm not getting beat in a race by old half a calf.
He'll run into something like it is with his race car. Trip and fall or something.
I'll probably fall. That's
but hey, the best part about catching parts and jacking up my hands is you won't be able to answer the phone, type at work.
I'll hold the phone for you.
You can reply to all my emails too.
No,
perfect.
They have AI now. You can just talk to it.
Oh, he got you there.
I am pretty good at that. I do that all the time. So I haven't typed my own email in about 4.5 months.
Oh, geez. Here we go. Now we're getting into it.
It's all starting to make sense, isn't it?
It's all starting to make sense. But in all honesty, though, getting back to the topic of safety, it's the reality of what it is, because no matter how quick you are, dodging parts is not fun.
No.
And the worst part about it is it's rarely, in our circumstance, it's very rare that you see things flying across the shop, but they do get, when they start moving around and rattling around on the bit, then they start breaking tools. And that's really the bigger problem, is that you're going to break a $70, $80, $100 tool. We got some customers that cut acrylic, and they have tools that are over $1,000 for one bit. Could you imagine your acrylic comes loose and then it snaps your $1,000 bit?
There goes your profit.
There goes your profit. Yep. And that's the reality of where you're at. So it's speed is more than just how fast can I go. Sometimes it's about how little are my parts moving around. So my speed is every time I cut, it actually works.
Yeah.
Because I'm a lot faster by not having to recut things than I am by just speeding the machine up.
Yep.
So
does your machine fire parts across the shop based on the way the tool is spinning?
Yeah.
So you can just stand on the right side of the spindle and you won't get hit.
I knew that's what was coming.
If you're smart, you're going to stay out of the way.
Well, what if I don't know if you know this, but the machine changes directions when it cuts.
You got to stand on the right side, man.
Just keep moving with the machine.
Stand behind the control stand, and only 5% of your body's exposed, so you'll be fine.
Here we go. Do not listen to Nick.
We're just talking safety. I'm trying to make sure
let's not
safety first.
Let's not listen.
Safety first. That's all.
Safety first. I agree. Do not listen to Nick. Nick is not OSHA approved.
Yet.
We'll work on that next week.
My new job requires it, so I'm working on that.
Here we go. Yeah, he's running the mill next week. But yeah, let's talk about
the lead times are going to be really low after I get out there.
Yeah, they are. Nobody's going to buy anything anymore.
That was unnecessary.
Sorry. I didn't mean that. I thought you knew. Let's talk about regen versus claw versus vein root pumps.
Yes.
Not that kind of claw, not like a bear claw.
Not like Wolverine.
Not like Wolverine. The reason I bring it up is because commonly in the woodworking industry, you see regen and vein root style pumps.
Yeah.
And the main reason is because it's a dusty environment. But we've seen this like surge recently
Yes.
of claw pumps. And Becker has experience with claw pumps.
We do.
So it's not that you guys don't build them,
Yep.
not that you don't have the ability to build them. But the problem with a claw pump for our applications, and I will say this, claw pumps work really well for certain applications. I have seen them a lot in the medical field.
Yes, a
Correct?
lot in the medical field.
Right? Okay, so I'm not crazy. Like
Yes.
that's where they're at.
Yep.
Well, I'm crazy, but that's where they're at. But people have started to like, well, they work great in that industry, so I'm going to use it on my woodworking machine. And the problem with that theory is woodworking is dirty.
Yes, it is.
And you get dust, and that dust, when it gets into a claw pump, what people don't realize about claws, the reason it's called claws because it literally looks like a claw, and it rotates internally, and that claw pushing the air is essentially what creates the hold down.
Correct.
Or creates the suction. And it works, I mean, it's a very high pressure pump.
Yes.
They generally, it's one of the few pumps I can say that can give a vein root style pump a run for its money in pressure.
Yeah.
But the downfall to those is that any amount of debris gets into that pump. And I'm not talking about like debris that you can see. We're talking about airborne dust particles. Because the clearance on a claw pump is thousandths of an inch, correct?
Oh, it's so like fitting a piece of paper
Yeah.
pretty much through it.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. So I was going to say it's thousandths of an inch, which 4 thousandths is the thickness of a piece of paper. And I know a claw pump is like 3 to 4 thousandths. So it gives you the idea of how small a piece of dust can be. And when it gets into that, it now fills that gap. And so what ends up happening is that piece of dust scores the internal whatever you want to call it of the vacuum pump, because that's my technical term, right? It gets you there. And yeah, it's the
We'll let them have that one.
jigabobber. And when it happens, though, is essentially what you're creating friction. And friction in a vacuum pump that moves at RPM, right?
Yep.
At high RPM or
Yep.
fairly high RPM, producing heat,
Yep.
because all these pumps produce a level of heat, creates bad things. And the nice thing about a vein or a root style pump is literally I've seen it. You guys have thrown dust into them.
Yeah.
And they'll just shoot dust out
Shoot
the
right
other
back
end.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like dust comes back out the other end very, very forcefully. But I mean, the nice thing is it goes through the pump and it gets rid of it.
Correct.
I've seen video, and there's a video of Becker taking a claw pump and throwing dust into a claw pump. It does not come out the other end. The pump goes boom.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is with a vein style pump, you can replace veins, you can do things and keep your pump running. With a claw pump, when that happens, it's catastrophic.
Yeah, you pretty much are replacing the pump at
The
that
pump's
point.
done. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cost of that pump isn't any cheaper.
It is not.
And so now you're out lots of money, and it's simply because you put the wrong technology in the wrong environment.
Yeah. And I think that's what it comes down to. Like you said, there is a time and place for claws. You know what I mean? Some woodworking applications might be okay with the claw,
Right.
but, it is, sometimes cheaper to replace a set of veins, get back up and running in 15 minutes. And, sometimes
Right.
with a claw, it's not so easy. So just depending on your application.
And that's what I wanted to make the point of, is that I'm not saying that claws don't work, because
Yeah.
they're great pumps.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of applications where I've seen them be very successful. But my thing has always been, why add additional risk if we don't need to?
Right.
And knowing your environment, maybe you have a very clean environment, or where your pump sat is going to
Exactly.
be completely separate and you're not worried about it. It might work fine.
Right. Exactly.
But my question has always been, if you're going to get similar results, why risk it?
yeah. Yeah.
There's not a huge risk.
Know your environment, know your application, and
Right.
Yep, size it right.
Right. And that's where I'm at with it, is, and the same, like regenerative blowers exist for a reason. Like, there are places where we say you got to have a regen blower. Like,
Yep.
it's the right application. But again, you want to size it appropriately. You want to make sure you're putting these pumps in the right applications, because otherwise you're going to regret it. So
Exactly.
yeah. So we've kind of talked about most of it. I guess the last thing I want to really talk about is common applications where you see vacuum pumps. The ones that come to mind for me is obviously cabinetry for vacuum. nested-based applications where you're cutting out sheets of material. Cabinetry processing is super popular for vacuum hold down. I don't think really anybody's screwing parts down or clamping those down. And sign making is another one. Those are the two applications that like I know we are heavily involved in with vacuum because you're holding small parts. You need to be able to get around to all sides of the parts. And a lot of times you got to do intricate machining.
Sure.
Where holding the part in place makes sense because especially with acrylics, aluminums, MDF, anything where it's going to show your tooling marks.
Yep.
You want that part to be stabilized.
Yep.
Is there any applications I'm not thinking of that you're like, hey, you know what? We're really big in these areas.
I mean, everything.
Yeah.
I mean, vacuum, like you said, from medical to thermoforming to plastics and rubber to additive manufacturing. Vacuum is everywhere. Pick and place, robotics.
And that's something I wanted to touch on. I'm glad you brought up pick and place and robotics because we had Schmalz on the show last week. And we talked about Schmalz lifts and how great they are, and Schmalz lifts uses Becker vacuum pumps.
They do.
And that's actually a regenerative blower, correct?
It is.
So there we go. There's a perfect example of where regenerative blowers make sense. So, it's literally a Becker pump can fit almost any application. If you have a hold down or a blower pump, whatever you want to call it, they probably have a product that'll fit it.
Exactly.
At least give them a shot. So
yeah. Call us up.
Yeah, call them up. Otherwise, for anybody who's going to be at AWFS coming up, we're almost there. We're just weeks away at this point.
Yeah.
We're going to be at
Friday.
Yeah, I leave next week too. Yeah, it's booth number 2323 is where we'll be, and you'll be able to see our vacuum table. We'll show you the high flow vacuum. We can talk about all the fun stuff that we just talked about. But if you want to see the actual pumps, the space shuttles themselves, the mothership,
motherships,
they are located where?
Yeah, we're at 1223.
1223. So they're not far from us.
Not far from you.
Yeah, they're really real close to us. So you can pop into our booth, say hi, pop into their booth, say hi.
Yeah.
Whatever direction, go to theirs first, come see us second, whatever. But make sure you check us both out. We're going to be there. Both of us are going to be there, right?
Yeah,
You're going to be there.
I will be there
I'm
all
going to
week.
be there. Nick, are you going?
No.
Nick's upset.
I'll be in Colorado. So
Yeah, you are.
Oh.
Family vacation.
Vegas
Oh,
is
nice.
my favorite place in the world.
That's
but
why I always give Nick a hard time because
He never
literally
takes
Vegas is his favorite place. And unfortunately, I do not bring him to Vegas with us.
It's because he doesn't want to have any fun. He knows if I'm there, he'll have fun.
I've never been there for pleasure, only work. So
Same here.
yeah.
I've only been there for work ever. I lied. I've been there one time for pleasure for one day. Yeah, we went to the NASCAR race down there.
Oh, nice. Okay,
And-
at least it was memorable.
Yeah, we were actually going. My wife and I were going on our 10-year anniversary trip, and
She's a saint, by the way.
my wife is a saint, absolutely saint, absolute saint. But we had scheduled a trip, and I was like, well, the day before we leave is the NASCAR race, and we had to have a layover anyways to go where we were going. And I'm like, well, we might as well stop in Vegas and do
Yeah,
that.
why
So she's
not?
like, and my wife, of course, is like, sweet, we're gonna go racing for our 10-year. This will be awesome. But she had a really good time. We had a good time down there. So I lie. I've been to Vegas one day for pleasure, but I didn't even stay overnight. I was there
And
for the day
gone.
and then gone.
Doesn't
So,
count then.
Yeah, I say, does it count? I
Yeah.
don't know.
No.
I was there for a day.
Sounds like we need to have a trip.
Do we?
Company trip.
Company trip.
I'll
There
buy.
you go.
That's called work again.
Yeah, but we'll just all take some time off, shut it down for a couple of days.
Shut it down.
Just wrap her up, boys. We're shutting it down.
JB only be on board.
JB will not be on board.
Hey, if I can get him to come on this podcast, he'll let us go on a trip. We can still work while we're there.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
Consider
I
it done.
I agree. We'll see how this plays
Me
out.
and JB are dogs now, so we're cool.
Okay, there it is. Now I know he's lying to people. But yeah, obviously, we've talked a lot about vacuum today, and who would have thought you could talk about vacuum for an hour, right?
Right.
There's a lot.
It's exciting.
We've only talked about the tip of the iceberg. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much more to the vacuum, and we're not going to get into all the scientific side of how pumps and why pumps work. But if you want to get into that, I promise you there are smarter people than both of us that would be happy to get into that with you.
Definitely smarter than us.
And by
Right.
both of us, she's referring to me and him, and she's the smart one.
She is the smart one in the room.
I don't know about that, but thank you.
That's why we had you on as the expert.
Yeah.
We're just two idiots with mics in our face every week. So, but yeah, so like I said, not all pumps are created equal. Not all tables are created equal. Not every OEM even understands what they're selling you. A lot of times they're just selling you what they have on their sheet. And so I just always encourage people that before you buy something like a vacuum pump or a vacuum system, you start to understand why you're buying what you're buying and how it's going to benefit your business. So
Yes.
No
Educate
question
yourself.
is a dumb question.
That's right.
That's the truth. Yeah. And actually along that line, that's this week's motivational quote of the week. You said education, and it's what I had actually. I wrote down, education is not the preparation for life. Education is life itself.
Wow.
And so every single day, you should be learning something. And hopefully today, we taught you a little bit about vacuum. There's always something for all of us to take away. I mean, that's the thing that I try to remind myself. So again, back to motivational quote of the week is, education is not the preparation for life. Education is life itself. And so every day you should be learning, and nobody ever knows it all.
Love that.
So
Never be the smartest person in the room.
I love that one. Never be the smartest person in the room.
And that's me and you again.
We're not the smartest. That's why we brought Tricia. So
Do what I can.
no, we appreciate having you on the show today.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
It's been a lot of fun. So again, make sure you swing out to AWFS. Check us all out. We're all going to be there. And as always, thanks for tuning in to Talking Shop with ShopSabre. I'm Brandon.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Tricia.
Until next time, keep talking shop.